Oh god. Okay, not too bad then. 100-foot drop. Check.
I know what you're thinking. Is that really how Nothing tests its products? What if I told you that the real checklist is even more mental? I got on the blower with some of our quality testing engineers, and they gave me a checklist of all the tests we do to our devices before they go on sale. From super soaking our products to sticking them in industrial grade air fryers, we'll be running through every single way we test our products. Grab your hard hats and visors because we're jumping into the steel ball test. Here, we take a solid steel ball that weighs 500 grams and drop it straight onto our phones to test their shatter resistance. No cases and absolutely no mercy. If it's destroyed too easily, well, then it's back to the drawing boards. Oh yeah, we've been there a few times. Unless you were born yesterday, you'll know that devices and liquids don't get on well together, so we test against that. We torture our phones by submerging them at a range of pressures, strapping to stands and blasting them with jets, and even salt water. But we're not just soaking them for the fun of it, we're looking to see how well the phone's seals hold up under intense pressure, simulating things like heavy rainfall.
Oh god, they trying to drown me in this hole!
Or accidentally dropping your phone down bog. This is how we test our device's IP ratings, and for those unfamiliar, the first number relates to dust protection, and the second number relates to how well a device fights off liquids. For example, the Nothing Phone 3a Pro has an IP64 rating, meaning it's fully protected against dust, and it can handle splashes of water in any direction, but it's not fully waterproof, so don't go chucking it in your nan's bath. Whoa, hold on a minute. I just mentioned how we test against dust, and you can be sure we're doing a bloody good job of this one, because it's kind of important. The dust test sees our engineers slapping our phones into chambers. We add in a bunch of particles and dust, and they spin around, and I almost feel sorry for the little fellas. It's like they spent a day on the set of Dune. If even one speck of dust makes its way into the phone, it can do some serious damage, like destroying the mic or creating a short circuit, and we don't want that. Now let me ask you a question. How many times on average per day do you press down your volume key? Go on, think about it. Wrong. Multiply it by 20,000.
These f***ing idiots.
In this lab, we prod, plug, and press our devices thousands of times, so they're still clicking for years down the line. We run it through this machine because, well, it's better than paying someone to sit in there and press buttons all day, innit? Do you hear that? That's the sound of the final boss music, because our phones have just entered the arena and they're about to have their structures and surfaces put to the test. From scrubbing our phones with steel wool brushes to throwing them in vats of sharp pebbles in the pebble vibration abrasion test, and yes, that's the real name of that test, look it up. This merry band of torture tests is all about testing scratch resistance. Our devices take an absolute beating to make sure they can survive things like, well, survive your pockets. Moving into some serious environment-based testing now, we've got two challenges to see how a device holds up against heat. The first test simulates long-term exposure to environmental factors like UV light, humidity, and air pressure. The goal here is to assess how the phone's physical materials like plastic and screen coatings change over time. We call it the atmospheric aging test. Here we chuck our devices into a special oven that can blast it with different temperatures ranging from -40 up to 80 degrees. It goes back and forth to both extremes, pushing it to the absolute limit. This test, known as the extreme temperature test, good naming, looks at how well the internal components like the processor and battery perform in the most extreme conditions. Phones have to be able to brave Canadian winters and function in Delhi heat waves. So of course, this makes up part of our testing. And if extreme temperatures weren't enough, it's time for something even more brutal. Let's talk about the drop test. Now, of course, not all phones are dropped the same way. Some land on their corners, some slam screen down. It's unpredictable as hell, but that's why we strap them in to a directional drop test. We drop our phones from a range of different heights and angles, repeating it time after time to identify the weak points, so we can hopefully avoid our phones cracking every 5 minutes. And in case you're wondering, we also do a series of much smaller drop tests for those less serious falls. And if you're a silly sausage who's dropped their phone recently, well, drop a comment below and subscribe for a chance to win a new one. See what I did there?
Oh, bro.
Alright, now turn that off. Sick. If you haven't guessed it yet, it's the USB durability test. Here we simply plug and unplug our ports thousands of times. You've probably seen JerryRig trying to bend our phones to oblivion, right? Well, we're actually pretty worried that he's going to drive his Cybertruck through our front door and bend us in half, so that's why we do this next test. We bend test our devices, but not with our bare hands. We use these rigs to apply measured amounts of force to our phones. Each one is mounted and the force is increased in small increments, recorded down to the millimeter, to see how they respond under pressure. I wonder what the bend strength of Jerry's hands are. Take a look at this. No, that's not the Phone 4's design. This is a resolution chart. This is the camera lab, and this chart helps our engineers determine how sharp our cameras are. Our team snaps a photo of it at a set distance, usually about 50 times the lens's focal length, then zoom in to see how many of the tiny lines the camera can still pick up before they blur together. The more lines it can resolve clearly, the sharper the camera. Look, it's basically an eye test for our cameras, so when we say that a Nothing phone has crystal clear images, this is how we prove it. We also put our cameras through loads of tests to make sure they're at the top of their game. We test dynamic range, low light performance, color accuracy, and how they handle fast motion, and so much more. We're getting even more technical now, so buckle up as we strap into some of the most important tests. Strap in and strap on and strap in again, because we're strapping in and strapping on to some of the most important tests. In this room, we simulate years of usage in a staggering 5 days. It might just look like they're plugged in and having a lovely little charge, but the reality is we're running a hardcore script on these bad boys that runs 110 apps, 28 testing tasks, all non-stop for 120 hours. What the holy shit? This is torture. We're stress testing our phones to make sure they can handle your daily usage and more, including watching our wicked YouTube videos. But to watch our videos, you need a data that can connect to the internet or Wi-Fi, right? To make sure you can kick back and stream, we throw our phones through a series of connectivity tests where we check how well the phone connects to stuff like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, and more. And finally, we have the most expensive piece of equipment Nothing owns, the Mobile Data Lab, or as we call it, Big Bertha. Big, beefy, brilliantly engineered, this lab simulates some of the hardest wireless environments you'd find in the real world. This beast of a lab throws everything at your phone: weak signals, crowded networks, metal walls, noisy devices, you name it. We align the phone with lasers that will make Tom Cruise proud, and then unleash chaos with sketchy 5G, weak-ass Wi-Fi, network clashes, delays, and interference from every single orifice. From every angle. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our checklist, but actually there's one more top secret test we haven't told you about, and I'm going to try it for myself. Let's go outside. Woohoo! 3, 2, 1.